Hello and welcome to my channel, The Way What is Truth. I'm going to read out of the book of Ecclesiastes 1 to 5, and it's talking about how everything in this life has been done before. There's nothing new. We toil in vain. We chase after money but still end up in the grave. Some people make a success of themselves, for example, in this life, but they still end up in the grave, right? This is reality. There's nothing new under the sun, and even our problems are all temporary. Our highs and lows in life are all temporary. Whatever amount of pleasure we experience, from the least of pleasure to the most of pleasure in life, food, drink, you name it, it's all temporary. And at the end of it all, by the time we hit old age, you'll realise, especially by the time you hit old age, hopefully, you'll realise that it's only God that matters. So whether we're in the spring season of our life, throughout our childhood years, teenage years, and when we hit the age of 20, we enter into summer, and late 30s, early 40s is winter. And autumn. Late 30s, early 40s is autumn. Or whether we are in the winter season of life, which is 50 plus, isn't it? Whatever season of life we are in, there's a beauty to every season in life, and even young people can be wise, can be much, much wiser than old men. Okay, and this is about putting everything into perspective. Everything in this life is in vain. Everything, money, material possessions, our cars, our clothes, even the roofs over our heads won't be around forever. Everything is quicksand. Only the Lord Jesus is solid ground. My late brother used to say that, and it's very, very true. Satan is an expert at distracting people, getting people to feel disillusioned with life and jaded, and so on and so forth. But ultimately, no matter what mental or emotional state I've ever been in my life, God has always found a way to get me back on track, like he's doing with this video right now. And only Jesus matters. You can forget about the wisdom of this world, which changes from one century to the next, and changes depending also not only on which century you are in, but what part of the world you are in. This world's wisdom is always changing. We are in a so-called modern, secular, scientifically enlightened age now, are we not? So, secularism and all this scientific thinking and all the rest of it, and all of this rationalism has been around since ancient Greece. It's nothing new. There's nothing new around our ways of thinking or anything. Human nature, for all these millennia, has gone unchanged. Human nature has never ever changed. Despite us living in an internet age now, and an age of social media, which is a bit of a double-edged sword. Anyway, enough about all that. I better start reading the book of Ecclesiastes. I like to read the words of wisdom from Solomon, because Solomon prayed for wisdom and God gave it to him, right? And I can relate so much. Every time I read the book of Ecclesiastes, I can relate to what he says so much, because often I just think to myself, what is all this about? Life's a joke. This is just regurgitating whatever we're going through, whatever's going on in the world, whatever other people are doing, whether it's our neighbours, family members, whatever. It's all been done before, and it just feels so ridiculous. And the older I get, the more I realise it's only God. He's the only thing that matters at the end of the day. Anyway, I've got to start reading this now. The book of Ecclesiastes. I'm going to try and read it slowly and carefully, so I make as few mistakes as possible, and I might add a little bit of my own input here and there as well, but I'll try to limit it as much as I can, because I think most of it is quite self-explanatory. So, the words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. What profit has a man from all his labour in which he toils under the sun? One generation passes away, and another generation comes, but the earth abides forever. It makes you think, how long do any of us really live on this earth? So many people are arguing over land, over religion. It's insane. The sun also rises and the sun goes down and hastens to the place where it arose. The wind goes toward the south and turns around to the north. The wind whirls about continually and comes again on its circuit. All the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full. To the place from which the rivers come, there they return again. All things are full of labour. Man cannot express it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. That can also be applied to the pride of life, the lust of the eyes and lust of the flesh, because what we see and what looks attractive only satisfies us temporarily. The pride of life, lust of the eyes and lust of the flesh. I thought I'd mention that in this video because that's the attitude that tells us it's our bodies and we can do what we want with our bodies, whom we want to do it with, or on our own, but we were all brought at a price, and that's Jesus. So we have to keep our eyes on him. We can't just satisfy ourselves and think, oh, to heck with it all. Look at the life I've lived, you know. As tempting as that may be. But we have to put God first, and he will help us. And whatever years we've lost in this life, he'll give it to us back. Whatever it is we think we have not experienced in this life, God will give it to us in time. Even if it's not in this life, he will eventually, whatever we've missed out on. Because he loves you. Okay, so the book of Ecclesiastes 2-8, all things are full of labour, man cannot express it, the eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. That which has been is what will be, that which is done is what will be done, and there is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which it may be said, see, this is new? It has already been in ancient times before us. There is no remembrance of former things, nor will there be any remembrance of things that are to come by those who will come after, which is very, very true, because every generation that comes and goes from one century to the next, they read about past generations in history books and stuff like that. We watch things on YouTube, don't we? But we weren't there. We weren't there to know those people personally. We can absorb a lot of information and knowledge. Our minds are capable of absorbing an extraordinary amount of knowledge. But we weren't there. And ultimately, those past generations will have been forgotten. So the book of Ecclesiastes 12 now. We're on to 12. I, the preacher, was king over Israel in Jerusalem, and I set my heart to seek and search out by wisdom concerning all that is done under heaven. This burdensome task God has given to the sons of man, by which they may be exercised. I've seen all the works that are done under the sun, and indeed all is vanity and grasping for the wind. What is crooked cannot be made straight, and what is lacking cannot be numbered. I communed with my heart, saying, look, I have attained greatness, and have gained more wisdom than all who were before me in Jerusalem. God. My heart has understood great wisdom and knowledge. I would just like to say that I prayed for wisdom fervently years and years and years ago. And God gave me wisdom. I know he did for a fact, because my outlook on my outlook on life changed, and I understood things that I never knew before. It's nowhere near the amount of wisdom he gave to Solomon, obviously, but he gave me wisdom. And it hasn't necessarily made me any happier, as we'll come to that part soon. It's a bit of a double-edged sword when you have wisdom and knowledge, and understanding. But he has given me wisdom. That's why I can relate to so much of what I read in the book of Ecclesiastes. And also, a few years ago, as I was reading out of the book of Matthew, when I got to the part where I was reading about how Jesus was tempted by Satan in the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights, God touched me with his hand, pressed hard on my chest. And I couldn't speak until he allowed me to. That was the most humbling experience I've ever had in my life. If you haven't felt the hand of God on you, then you don't know what real humility is. He makes you feel like, it's not that he makes you feel worthless, but he sort of puts you in your place. And once you've been humbled by God, you know, God will level you out. If you are full of sinful pride, vanity, or anything like that, he will level you out eventually. He will humble you. And once he's humbled you and leveled you out, he will build you up like the way he wants you to be. The way he wants you to be. Right, so the book of Ecclesiastes 16. I communed with my heart, saying, look, I have attained greatness and have gained more wisdom than all who were before me in Jerusalem. My heart has understood great wisdom and knowledge. And I set my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. I perceive that this also is grasping for the wind. I'm going to try and add as little of my own input as possible because I want to keep it under 20 minutes if I can. For in much wisdom is much grief, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. So we are on to the book of Ecclesiastes 2 now. I hope you're following this. Comment down below and add your own input to these words of wisdom from Solomon, which were from God. God gave the wisdom to Solomon, obviously. I said in my heart, come now, I'll test you with mirth, therefore enjoy pleasure, but surely this also was vanity. I said of laughter, madness, and of mirth, what does it accomplish? I searched in my heart how to gratify my flesh with wine, while guiding my heart with wisdom, and how to lay hold on folly, till I might see that was good for the sons of men to do under heaven all the days of their lives. I made my works great, I built myself houses, and planted myself vineyards. I made myself gardens and orchards. Actually, tell me how to pronounce that. Is it orchards or is it orchids? I think it's orchards. And I planted all kinds of fruit trees in them. I made myself water pools from which to water the growing trees of the grove. I acquired male and female servants, and had servants born in my house. Yes, I had greater possessions of herds and flocks than all who were in Jerusalem before me. Now just try to imagine that. I also gathered for myself silver and gold, and the special treasures of kings and of the provinces. I acquired male and female singers, the delights of the sons of men, and the musical instruments of all kinds. So I became great and excelled more than all who were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me. We're talking about extraordinary wisdom, far beyond what well over 90% of human beings I've ever had. Whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I did not withhold my heart from any pleasure, for my heart rejoiced in all my labour, and this was my reward from all my labour. Then I looked on all the works that my hands had done, and on the labour in which I had toiled, and indeed all was vanity and grasping for the wind. There was no profit under the sun. Then I turned myself to consider wisdom and madness and folly. For what can the man do who succeeds the king? Only what he has already done. Then I saw that wisdom excels folly, as light excels darkness. The wise man's eyes are in his head, but the fool walks in darkness. Yet I myself perceived that the same events happen to them all. So I said in my heart, as it happens to the fool, it also happens to me. And why was I then more wise? Then I said in my heart, this also is vanity, for there is no more remembrance of the wise than of the fool forever. Since all that now is will be forgotten in the days to come, how does a wise man die? As the fool. Therefore I hated life, because the work, what was done under the sun, was distressing to me, for all is vanity and grasping for the wind. Then I hated all my labour, in which I had toiled under the sun, because I must leave it to the man who will come after me. And who knows whether he will be wise or a fool? Yet he will rule over all my labour, in which I toiled, and in which I have shown myself wise under the sun. This also is vanity. There's a lot of very, very successful people in this world, but they're going to leave it all behind. Whatever properties they own, businesses, money, assets, you name it. Everything's going to... And then it will all crumble into dust in the end anyway. Think about it. Therefore I turned my heart and despaired of all the labour in which I had toiled under the sun. For there is a man whose labour is with wisdom, knowledge, and skill, yet he must leave his heritage to a man who has not laboured for it. This also is vanity and a great evil. For what has man for all his labour, and for the striving of his heart with which he has toiled under the sun? For all his days are sorrowful, and his work burdensome. Even in the night his heart takes no rest. This also is vanity. Think of all the overworked people out there and those who just live for work. That's all they do. And, a lot of people are just throwing their hands up in the air and thinking, what's all this about? Nothing is better for a man than that he should eat and drink, and that his soul should enjoy good in his labour. This also I saw was from the hand of God. For who can eat or who can have enjoyment more than I? For God gives wisdom and knowledge and joy to a man who is good in his sight. But to the sinner he gives the work of gathering and collecting, that he may give to him who is good before God. This also is vanity and grasping for the wind. Now we are on Ecclesiastes 3. It's going to go over 20 minutes. It's unavoidable. To everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck what is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to gain and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to sow. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time of war and a time of peace. What profit has the worker from that in which he labours? I've seen the God-given task with which the sons of men are to be occupied. He has made everything beautiful in its time. It also brings to mind that we are like the seasons. Again, spring, autumn, no, what am I thinking? Spring, summer, autumn and winter. Also, he has put eternity in their hearts. Except that no one can find out the work that God does from beginning to end. That's why the vast majority of people worldwide believe in a higher power. Not always the God of the Bible, but they believe in a higher power. There's a reason that atheists are in a minority, a large minority, but a minority nonetheless. I know that nothing is better for them than to rejoice and to do good in their lives. And also that every man should eat and drink and enjoy the good of all his labour. It is the gift of God. I know that whatever God does, it shall be forever. Nothing can be added to it, and nothing taken from it. God does it, that men should fear before him, that which is has already been, and what is to be has already been. And God requires an account of what is past. We're all going to have to make an account to God one day. It's scary, isn't it? Which is why we should have a healthy respect and fear of the Lord. Moreover, I saw under the sun, in the place of judgment, wickedness was there, and in the place of righteousness, iniquity was there. I said in my heart, God shall judge the righteous and the wicked, for there is a time there for every purpose and for every work. I said in my heart concerning the condition of the sons of men, God tests them, that they may see that they themselves are like animals. People who reject the Spirit, they reject God. They live like animals, don't they? Because they literally believe they are just animals. So why should they treat anybody with any love and respect? Only if they feel like it. If people have no love for God and no relationship with God, it will have an effect on their personality. It certainly will, although plenty of atheists are very loving and very selfless people. Of course they are. Plenty of Christians are worse than atheists and agnostics in their hearts. Let's not forget this. But overall, it still applies. Look at the behaviour of the world around you, broadly speaking. And it is heavily because most people have rejected God. For what happens to the sons of men also happens to animals. One thing befalls them as one dies, so dies the other. Yeah, surely they all have one breath. Man has no advantage over animals for all his vanity. That means we are all mortal. So aside from what I added to that, we are all mortal. We will all die one day. All go to one place, all off on the dust, and all return to dust. Who knows the spirit of the sons of men which goes upward, and the spirit of the animal which goes down to the earth? I believe that every animal on earth that has been created that has emotions like fear and happiness and contentment, stuff like that, has got a soul. Perhaps spiders don't have a soul, but creatures like that, but I believe dogs and cats do, and other such creatures, certainly horses do. So I perceive that nothing is better than that a man should rejoice in his own works, for that is his heritage. For who can bring him to see what will happen after him? Now we are on Ecclesiastes 4. Then I returned and considered all the oppression that is done under the sun. And look, the tears of the oppressed, that they have no comforter. On the side of their oppressors there is power, but they have no comforter. Therefore I praised the dead who were already dead, more than the living who are still alive. Yet better than both is he who has never existed, who has not seen the evil work that is done under the sun. And indeed we are living in a fallen, broken and evil world filled with self-righteousness, hypocrisy, war over land and religion. It's nuts. Again, I saw that for all toil and every skillful work, a man is envied by his neighbour. This also is vanity and grasping for the wind. Think about that. The fool folds his hands and consumes his own flesh. Better a handful with quietness than both hands full together with toil and grasping for the wind. Then I returned, and I saw vanity under the sun. There's a lot of vanity in this world. Just switch on the TV, look at the music videos out there, listen to a lot of so-called modern day music, what people describe as music, but really it's not. It's just cultural garbage. But yeah, this world is full of the pride of life, the lust of the eyes and lust of the flesh, and full of vanity and sinful pride, self-righteousness, that kind of thing. Then I returned, and I saw vanity under the sun. There is one alone, without companion. He is neither son nor brother, yet there is no end to all his labours, nor is his eye satisfied with riches. But he never asks, for whom do I toil and deprive myself of good? This also is vanity and a grave misfortune. Two are better than one, because they have a good reward for their labour. But if they fall, one will lift up his companion. But woe to him who is alone when he falls, for he has no one to help him up. Again, if two lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one be warm alone? Though one may be overpowered by another, two can withstand him, and a threefold cord is not quickly broken. Better a poor and wise youth than an old and foolish king, who will be admonished no more. For he comes out of prison to be king, although he was born poor in his kingdom. I saw all the living who walk under the sun. They were the second youth who stands in his place. There was no end of all the people over whom he was made king. Yet those who come afterward will not rejoice in him. Surely this also is vanity and grasping for the wind. Now we are on to the end part, Ecclesiastes 5. Thank you so much if you're still watching this. Walk prudently when you go to the house of God, and draw near to hear rather than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they do not know. Let me read that again. I'm tired. Ecclesiastes 5. Walk prudently when you go to the house of God, and draw near to hear rather than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they do not know that they do evil. Do not be rash with your mouth, and let not your heart utter anything hastily before God. For God is in heaven, and you on earth. Therefore let your words be few, for a dream comes through much activity, and a fool's voice is known by his many words. Have you noticed that the foolish amongst us on this earth tend to talk too much and not listen enough? Yeah? When you make a vow to God, do not delay to pay it, for he has no pleasure in fools. Pay what you have vowed. Better not to vow than to vow and not pay. Do not let your mouth cause your flesh to sin, nor say before the messenger of God that it was an error. Why should God be angry at your excuse and destroy the work of your hands? For in the multitude of dreams and many words there is also vanity. But fear God. If you see the oppression of the poor and the violence, perversion of justice and righteousness in a province, do not marvel at the matter, for high official watchers over high official, and higher officials are over them. Moreover, the profit of the land is for all, even the king is served from the field. He who loves silver will not be satisfied with silver, nor he who loves abundance with increase. This also is vanity. Money and material possessions never made anyone happy. It's just a temporary distraction. All the pleasures and all the luxury and everything we can buy with money. When goods increase, they increase who eat them. So what profit have the owners except to see them with their eyes? The sleep of a labouring man is sweet, whether he eats little or much, but the abundance of the rich will not permit him to sleep. There is a severe evil which I have seen under the sun, riches kept for their owner to his hurt. But those riches perish through misfortune. When he begets a son, there is nothing in his hand. As he came from his mother's womb naked, he shall return to go as he came, and he shall take nothing from his labour, which he may carry away in his hand. And this also is a severe evil. Just exactly as he came, so shall he go. And what profit has he who has laboured for the wind? All his days he also eats in darkness, and he has much sorrow and sickness and anger. Here is what I have seen. It is good and fitting for one to eat and drink, and to enjoy the good of all his labour in which he toils under the sun all the days of his life, which God gives him, for it is his heritage. As for every man to whom God has given riches and wealth, and given him power to eat of it, to receive his heritage and rejoice in his labour, this is the gift of God. For he will not dwell unduly on the days of his life, because God keeps him busy with the joy of his heart. So I think that's about enough. Let me just read a little bit of this. Yeah, it is repeating itself a little bit. Yeah, but I hope and pray that has done you some good. It does go on and on and on. I mean, Ecclesiastes, yeah, it just goes on and on and on. But let's just reflect on how everything in this life is in vain. And wow, we are at 30 minutes. Epic. Yeah, all that matters at the end of everything, all of our highs and lows in life, all of our desires, wants, everything, whatever it is we are, whoever we are, whatever we're trying to do in life, however we feel, it's all temporary, and we need to focus on Jesus. So pray to God in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ for him to open your heart, and like King Solomon, pray for wisdom. I want whoever's watching this video to pray for wisdom too, because although he may not give you the same amount of wisdom that Solomon had, he will still give you wisdom as much as you need, as and when you need it. We don't need to know everything. And in fact, when we increase in wisdom and knowledge, oftentimes, it doesn't necessarily make you happier. So be careful what you wish for. Now, God bless you all, and I mean that, and amen.